I'm 25. Do I really know what it means to be happy?
For years, I was just on this dark, like angry, bitter, just dark path. And your story reminds me of what happened to me, whereas I wake up and I just feel this weight. Then the voice of salvation comes, which was an actual voice for me, which said, you are empty. You are unhappy. Something needs to change.
I feel guilty sometimes when I go into that mode of just like, I start praying to God and I say, you know, I need this, I need this, I need this. But there's those moments of gratitude where you say like, thank you. And that is enough.
It's just like, holy cow, like how much have I taken for granted and that I continually do every single day.
Let's say I was a person that is listening to this and they say, if I want to start listening from a deeper place, what would be some of the advice you would give them?
Acting on emotions as guides to truth. Stillness. Surrendering to what is. Seeking. Using my gifts with purpose. Light. This is the emotional blueprint.
Okay, man, I want to introduce you to the audience, Braedon. I've seen a lot of people. I think I've seen over 1,000 people as a therapist over the last 11 years. And the last few years, I have seen some of the most gifted and prepared people that have moved through like this spiritual or this healing journey like incredibly quick. And you have broken some records. It doesn't matter if you've broken records. I'm kind of kidding. But it was just so cool to see how ready and prepared you were to learn and to really listen to your spirit. Pretty amazing. So just on my side, just being able to witness that over and over and over again over the last 11 years has softened me a ton and is like created this like it just super grateful, man, to know you and to it's inspiring. It never gets old. It never gets old. So I wanted to have you on, man, because your journey is pretty incredible.
Thank you for saying that, by the way.
Of course, man.
The audience doesn't know that I paid him $20 to say that.
And I'll take that now.
Yeah.
Thanks for the 20.
I mean that like for real, like thank you.
Of course, man.
I feel that for you, so thank you.
And it was cool. It was cool to see how we were on, to some degree, the same journey as you got, you know, a little. Just throughout the whole process, really, was really kind of meant to be. So yeah, man. I want to talk about your journey. And when you look back, what has been some of the more transformational moments for you as you've let go and gone through this inner journey to become whole?
Man, it's hard. Like when you share, I'll do this a lot where I'll share experiences, and then like as I'm sharing it, I'm like, that doesn't encapsulate like what it was really like. So words are like a prison. So I'll try my best. But before, like rewind months ago, I don't know how long we've been meeting, but
I think it's been maybe like a year, man.
Almost a year ago.
Yeah.
I was in my apartment in West Jordan, and my wife was, I think it was a Saturday. I think she was working that day. And so I was just at home, just kind of doing my thing, kind of cleaning up. And my wife kind of gave me some things to kind of do. And I remember just like trying to begin and try to start my day when I felt like this like weight. It was like this sadness. It was like this shame. It was this like physical weight that I could feel, to the point where I was on the bed like, I was like, what is going on? And that was a huge moment where my spirit was like, dude, you need to take a look at something. And so I remember being so weighted down, and I remember like my wife came home and I told her, I was just like, I've had the weirdest day. Like I've just felt like this weight. She said, it's probably time. Like you need to like address this. You've been pushing this away for so long. So,
and this is why it's not good for man to be alone.
oh my gosh. She was
It's good to be alone to a certain degree for a certain amount of time. And then, yeah, it's just great that we have people like that.
totally. And she was like, yeah. And I was like, okay. So, and then, you make that call. That's like, I feel like that's a low moment where you're like, just trying to convince yourself, like, I got it together, I got it. And then you make the call and you're like, I don't got it, kind of thing.
Especially as a man. It's
Right.
like, no, I'll be fine. Like, I've got it figured out.
Right.
It's kind of cool the way you said it, because you literally responded to the call.
Mm-hmm.
That is the first step. And the call in this case was, well, in almost every case, what does it mean to respond to the call? It's the emotions, the tough emotions that are there, and then maybe some like spiritual prompting or something.
Mm-hmm.
So
The beautiful thing is like the emotions, it takes some time for us to like awaken to that, like, oh whoa, like my emotions are speaking to me, but they're there doing their work, dude. And you can listen or you can bury, and then that's when the emotions just kind of like basically what happened that day. It's like, listen to me kind of thing. So yeah, I made that call, and and then we met, and just was kind of like in a spot of just like, I'm 25. Do I really know what it means to be happy? Like to have peace, and kind of had that like quarter life existential, maybe not crisis, but like looking into that kind of like, have I been kind of faking it like this whole time? And that was kind of that catalyst moment of where my whole, my outer world was crazy, but my inner world had been neglected for so long. So it was just kind of like the opening to that door, which was really cool.
I think that's hard for people because they discount their inner experience all the time, because they say things like, I should be feeling fine. Like, I have a wife, I have a good job, I have a Porsche, whatever the situation is, like, I should be feeling fine. And how many times do people discount that or dismiss that until it just kind of like, well, you wake up, you're in your bed, and it's like, boom. Like, are we going to do something about that? Do you think that was one of the darkest moments of your story?
There were definitely moments that were buried for a long time. That was kind of one of those moments where it was like, hey, this isn't gone. I remember, something that I'm really passionate about talking about, and something we've talked about a lot, is the trance of shame, and how shame is this negative emotion that just feels like close to death, as we were talking about.
It's the closest thing to death,
Which is
that emotion.
For anyone that's felt shame, we've all felt shame. That is really accurate. That's what it feels like. Your perspective is so narrow. But I remember an experience where I just got back from my mission as well, and on the surface nothing was wrong, but inside the shame was so strong. I remember it literally pulled me to the ground. I remember being like, just like in my bedroom, just kind of like on the ground, just like, what is going on? And so that was probably one of the darkest moments of just like, this is not right. You need to look at this kind of thing.
Let me share this quote with you, man. That's kind of
Yeah.
cool. Joseph Campbell is just one of the greatest humans that's ever lived, in my opinion.
Our hero.
One of the things he says, one thing that comes out of almost every myth or story is that at the bottom of the abyss comes the voice of salvation. The black moment is the moment when the real message of transformation is going to come.
Mm-hmm.
At the darkest moment comes the light. So it's cool what you're saying. It reminds me of, I think one of my darkest moments in my story was just contrasting this a little bit, was when I was a boy, I loved Legos. So it's my birthday and I get like this awesome Lego castle that I can't wait to build. So my best friend's over, we're chewing bubble gum and we're building this Lego castle. And I'm like starting to feel like this feeling of aliveness that we often seek in our life. And then we go run outside, I trip and I break my wrist. I like trip over a bunny cage or something, break my wrist. And that was not enough to stop me from continuing the like, and my mom gets home and I'm trying to build this Lego castle with like a T-Rex wrist. And she's like, ah, like took me to the hospital anyways. But as time went on, this feeling of aliveness and this aliveness of my childhood was quickly coming to an end, because then I started to, this was, my parents got divorced, and then, my mom had a huge impact on me. Now it's all beautiful impact, but in the time it was a huge wound because I really needed love from her, but instead got a lot of harshness, and that just had a deep impact on me. She kicked me out of the house when I was 17, and so I'm a senior, and I'm living with this random Chinese guy. And I just got done throwing a party. I wake up and I just remember, so for years I was just on this dark, angry, bitter, just dark path. And your story reminds me of what happened to me, whereas I wake up and I just feel this weight. It was this really dark moment, and in the abyss. I was basically at rock bottom. Mm-hmm. Then the voice of salvation comes, which was an actual voice for me, which said, you are empty. You are unhappy. Something needs to change. Mm-hmm. And for me, that change didn't look like calling a therapist. It probably would have been great if that was an option, but it looked like me moving and getting out of my environment. And then, since then my life started to get better, so it's just cool. We don't often view this heavy weight of sadness or shame as a gift. Mm-hmm. And it only is a gift if we respond to it.
Right.
And Joseph Campbell talks about this too. If we don't respond to it, we begin to gradually witness our own disintegration. Mm-hmm. So it really is like this fork in the road. Do I go down this path of facing my pain or uncomfortable emotions? Or do I just dismiss it and say I have a Porsche and everything should be fine?
That is the greatest addiction, is burying the suffering. It is an addiction that, if not broken, can last a lifetime of people. This isn't real. I'm going to distract myself and to push it down, instead of, I need to view this as a legitimate signal from my spirit and from God, or from whoever you believe in, a higher power, that something needs to be done.
Exactly.
Right.
And so it's so cool that I want to come back to your story, but Joseph Campbell says that if we continue to dismiss it, isn't it just how life is so full of grace that we get so many people get hundreds and thousands of opportunities to do something about that. And he says that as long as we are dismissing it, whatever house we build will be a house of death.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty strong, but so true, because that house, it's like what Christ talks about. He's like, are you going to build your house upon a rock or on the sand? Because if you build it on the sand, when the rains come, the house falls over. Whatever house we build on the sand is guaranteed to fall.
Mm-hmm. So much of what we feel like happiness is and well-being is so, maybe this is just a Western thing, but like external, just like building the walls, the Porsche. And, you know, you're building the house on the sand, and 3 years goes by, 5 years goes by, and you're like, my house is still good. Like, this is prime real estate right here. And then that's when everything's wiped out and there's nothing left to be based on.
It's such a deception that people believe that it can last, because it's like saying there's never going to be another storm that comes in the world. Like I'm banking my outlook on that there's going to be no more storms. But as soon as that storm comes, you will fall, and the fall thereof, it says, is great. And so I love that parable or metaphor from Christ, because the sand is symbolic of ideas and thoughts, and the rock is a symbol of actually Christ or truth, and being rooted in listening to our spirit and our emotions. It's basically just truth. But so if we're dismissing our heavy emotions, or we're not fully listening to them, or we don't know how, then we're not building our house on the rock.
That was like, to kind of connect that to another experience that I had, is it's like you grow up and you're like, you have these emotions, whatever it might be, these negative emotions, and it seems so random, or it seems so, you're just kind of like, oh, what do I do with that? And you just tuck it under, you know, just hope that it goes away. When I was 16, my grandma, she took me to Paris, and I had this experience that before, you know, my therapy journey and all that, I still remembered, and I thought about it for a long time. But we're in Paris, and we're in this random street, and I remember from forever ago, I've always been obsessed with Paris, and I don't even care if that gets any hate or anything. I know it's totally cliche.
It's a cool city,
but I'm kind of in love with Paris still. So I'm walking on this street, and it's the first time I've ever been. It's the only time I've been. I'm gonna go back soon, but I'm walking on this street, and I remember like being totally immersed in the moment. Everything became super real. I had no agenda. We had nothing to do. We were just walking. And so I started to notice some of the sights around me, some of the, you know, how the ground felt when I was walking. And all of a sudden I became really present, and I became completely, one might say, mindful. And in that moment, it was one of the moments, the first time in my life, where I felt more like myself than any moment. And that was because I was present, and it was kind of like this surrender moment to like everything that was. And my whole life after that, I had no idea what that was. I had no idea that had a name. And in a very real sense, I was connected to my spirit, my emotions. Yeah. And my whole life I was like, I hope that happens again. And it was just kind of this random thing.
You're like, is this just Paris that does this?
I think you need to buy a ticket every year and hope it happens.
It's funny when people associate those experiences, those flow state experiences, with a location or a person. where when it's really them being present, like you said, and in their spirit. Because I think the cool thing what you said is when we suspend thought, it's like, okay, thoughts are the most surface part of our being and who we are. So we go beyond that. Okay, now we're in our breath. And then the breath is a bridge from thoughts to spirit. And then when we're in our spirit, it can actually like float outside of us, and it reaches, it's like, I don't know if float is the right word, but it reaches out and it connects with anything that is pure or anyone that is also in that same state of mind. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a cool, because there's a lot of like, and that's what's so cool about Paris or other inspired like art or architecture. It's like there's a purity to it, and obviously nature. Mm-hmm. And so it, just kind of a cool thing. This is how people that like the Zen masters that meditate and they reach out in their spirit, they can see things collectively. They can actually see what's going on in the world, and it's hard. That doesn't make sense to our mind, but it's a real thing.
And I think the reason why it is hard for our minds is because it's not even a mind thing.
Exactly.
It's not even.
It's turning the mind off.
It's not even capable of
Right.
knowing in that deeper way of knowing. Like, that's why for so many years, I think a lot of us were like stuck in the mind. We're stuck in the rational mind, the reasoning, romanticizing the intellect. And that's why we feel so disconnected. Or maybe we feel like life has changed or it's more complicated. Sure, we grow up and we have, different responsibilities, but you were talking about when you were a kid, that aliveness. Mm-hmm. It's like we come into the earth kind of with that heart knowing kind of kicked in already. Mm-hmm. I feel like maybe it's a cultural thing, or maybe it's just kind of like we start to think that's naive or something, and so we shift out of heart mode. We go into mind mode, and then the world just kind of seems closed off.
So can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah.
What do you mean when you say heart mode versus mind mode?
Oh man, yeah. How do we even start with that? Let me give you an example. Daily, when we go out and we have our experiences of life, our mind is this incredible tool, but it's always running. Mm-hmm. It's like nonstop. That's a fun little experiment, just to kind of like just watch and see what your mind is doing when you're not intentionally using it. I like this. I don't like that. That's an ugly color. Or I have this appointment. Oh, did we buy milk? Or, that kind of thing. You're not intentionally using it.
There's so much resistance involved.
Yeah.
I've noticed. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a really good label. I remember I had this experience with this. I don't like this. So when we shift into heart mode, or knowing from the heart, it's like we can experience without immediately jumping in to label something. Or, in Buddhism or Eastern practice, they call it the non-dualistic thinking, or the equanimity, seeing everything as it really is and being with it from your being, and not just, that tree, I don't like aspen trees, just kind of shutting it off.
How important do you think being in heart mode is in relationships?
Essential. Essential.
Because it makes so much sense what you're saying. Because if I'm in my mind mode when my wife is upset at me, as an example, then I'm automatically maybe going to get defensive, or I'm going to label the unfairness of the way she's talking to me, which, by the way, just leads to more conflict and more, and it doesn't lead to anywhere. It's just, it escalates. Mm-hmm. But heart mode is seeing it for what it really is. So to me, the way I've understood heart mode is I'm in spirit. Mm-hmm. I'm in my awareness, and I'm seeing my wife get upset, but she seems really upset. So there's something else going on there. If that's the message, or it could be like, wow, I blew it this time, and I really need to take a lot of ownership of this. So it's so, like you said, man, it's so essential.
I want to talk about that for a second. That reminded me of something. When we're in conflict with someone, if we're stuck in the mind, I feel like we're going to lose. Like, the mind is, we could say, negative energy, Satan if you're religious, or the ego, or the natural man, or whatever we want to say. When we're stuck in that mode, it's so hard to see others. It becomes this narrow hole. So it's like, if we want to get out of that, especially if we're in a conflict, it's almost like we can use the breath, or we can use whatever we want to just kind of drop out of the head, or bring the head into the heart, and just kind of say, like, can I see this person's goodness for a second? If I can't see it, can I just feel it? Can I feel it with my heart? And then any decision that's made out of that place of stillness or peace or mindfulness, or whatever we want to say, any decision made from that place is going to be more authentic, more truthful, more inspiring than a quick judgment out of the mind.
Let's sit with that for a second. Yeah, the mind, Satan, ego, it wants division, and the heart wants connection and understanding. The mind wants isolation, and the heart wants connection and understanding. So the path of the mind, it leads to all of the things that you can notice collectively that are not going well in our universe, in our country, whatever you want to call it. It's a collective mind, Satan, creation, basically. So the division, the distraction, those are two big ones that come to mind.
Mm-hmm.
The last thing the mind wants to do is listen to someone else. I feel like I have the mind, the ego, I know what's really going on here. I know better than other people do. They're not going to tell me anything that's of value. Who are they? Mm-hmm. They're just a woman, or they're just the labels start. They're just a whatever. It's crazy, man.
If anyone's like interested in this, like, take a day and just observe your mind, and just see how it labels. See how it, I don't know. I don't want to say get into a conflict. I don't want to say like start an argument with someone. Let's say it happens or whatever, and just be the observer for a second. What am I believing about myself?
Do that for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
The whole day would be great.
Right.
That'd be an awesome like picnic day with me and
You'd be exhausted. You'd be like, dude, my mind is like this annoying. You wouldn't even want to hang out with it.
Dude, the mind sucks. It's the biggest loser. It's not a cool, yeah. Yeah.
You should say that when you go to school. Teacher, mind sucks.
But I think that's such a powerful message for people to really start to open up to, is the mind is useless. When you have inspiration, guess what? It's not coming from your physical brain.
Mm-hmm.
It's coming from your spiritual brain or your spirit.
That is why when people share spiritual experiences, or even like I was doing a minute ago, sharing transformational experiences, you're just like, if I were to listen to myself, I'd be like, oh, I guess I kind of explained that. But it's like the mind cannot put into words what we
spiritual
feel.
Things.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's like people, they share what they know as truth, and you listen to them, and they have these really humble thoughts, but you feel that. You feel it from them. But on paper, you'd be like, I mean, they weren't impressive speakers. So really interesting. The mind is really good when it comes to, you know, planning, we could say.
Reflection.
Right.
Trying to learn from something a mistake we made or something.
Maybe interpreting experiences that we've had. But I feel like...
That's it, though. It's
Right.
like fixing a problem solving, planning, and reflection. It's like that's the powerful thing is like we don't have to worry about problem solving because when we get a flat tire, I think it just becomes natural to be like, okay, I'm gonna call AAA. But like what most people don't do is they don't have these designated thinking windows where, okay, I'm designating, an hour a week to plan out my week ahead so that I'm not planning all day, every day in my mind.
Right.
Okay, I have set reflection times throughout my week or once a week or something. So I'm not reflecting on everything that's up. It's like we have to have a place to put this stuff.
Totally.
Otherwise, it just consumes our whole life.
Mm-hmm.
The New York culture, getting lost and thinking and doing, and you're only so aware in New York or wherever that just to not bump into someone. That's like, it's crazy.
I feel like if you set up times for that, then the goal, for sure, the goal is not to like eliminate thinking or to say like the brain, like we should just toss it or whatever. But it's like, okay, there are times when I use it. There are specific times, and I'm intentional with when I use it.
That's the key.
Right.
That's the key. I definitely want to come back to your story, man. But would this be a good time to talk about some of the mindfulness quotes that you wrote down?
Let's do it.
Okay. Do you have those pulled up? Let's talk about some of those, man. What are some ones that you wrote down that seem, if we look at those, which ones seem kind of cool?
To kind of connect this to what we've already been talking about, if this is a shout out to our favorite Vietnamese Buddhist monk, Thich Nhat Hanh. We could talk about him for hours, but he has this amazing analogy of kind of what we've been talking about. He says the essential thing is to not let any feeling or thought arise without recognizing it in mindfulness, or we could say stillness, like a palace guard who is aware of every face that passes through the front corridor, of just kind of like you're in that conflict mode. I notice that I'm feeling this way. Just that thought alone can help us just kind of escape the thought of thinking and then start to kind of move into a different... The spot where we get in trouble is like we don't realize it's happening. We get lost.
We're unaware. Yeah. Totally. We were talking about this on one of the last podcasts in the example of like traffic. If I'm not present when I hit traffic, the thought of this is ridiculous and there's too many people that live here, this is a joke, that thought sneaks in and it instantly takes root and causes stress. So what's interesting about stress is people think that events and people cause them stress. I have so much homework and it's stressing me out. My boss was all over the place today and it stressed me out. I hit traffic this morning and it stressed me out. People and events cannot cause stress. Stress is caused when we are resistant to whatever is happening, which is the thoughts sneaking in there when we're not aware of it. So that's the great deception. This is what Satan wants. He wants us to be unaware so a thought can sneak in, and so we actually believe it's the traffic that's causing us stress and not our unawareness or our resistance to it. Because why is that so damaging? Well, if I believe that traffic causes stress or people cause, then I feel like I don't have control over my life. I feel helpless. I get mad at people. Like, you're not loving me the way you should. It's great. It's
anyone to look into that, they just if someone were to see that dialogue, if we were to stop and see that dialogue, we'd be like, of course that's not true. You know, like to just
Right.
be like,
Yeah.
whoa, where did that come from? And we start like acting in these ways. So you use the traffic example. This great author, his name's Ezra Beta, I think is how you say his name. He wrote this book called The Zen Ways to Happiness. So he's a meditation teacher, and he taught these 3 questions that I think are really cool when we're in these moments. The first question is, am I happy right now? So you just stop. Or you could say, am I at peace right now? And most of the times when we have to ask that question, it means we're not, you know, the fact that we're starting the exercise. So he says, am I happy right now? Second question, in my mind right now, what is blocking that? In that case would be, you know, the traffic. I'm late for work, the traffic. And then the third question is, can I surrender to this? Can I surrender to what is? And so to use that example, then you start to kind of notice maybe some internal dialogue. And then you can look out, you can look in or out, you can look at some of the environment and just really become present in that. And the cool thing is, once we've kind of noticed that, and then we start operating from heart mode, the suffering kind of like eases, which is really beautiful. The whole situation hasn't changed, but
The traffic doesn't go away.
right.
But if you let go, if you recognize the thought of like, this is ridiculous, I don't deserve this, whatever the thought is, then what's interesting about resisting or holding on to those thoughts is it keeps you in a mode of inaction. So you don't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
I just sit there in traffic upset. But acceptance leads to action. Like, oh, I'm going to text my boss, let him know I'll be 10 minutes late. And I'm going to turn this song up because this song's great. And I'm going to go in the HOV lane.
Mm-hmm.
And then what do I know? I'm only 5 minutes late. And
We have to say something on that example you just used. Because a lot of people, I know if I were listening to this, I'd be like, okay, if I accept it though, that means that I'm like surrendering. It means that I'm becoming passive. But the cool thing is we surrender to that. And then you use that example of, okay, I can go to the HOV lane. I can text my boss. Now anything that comes up is going to be from a place that is so much more effective and not infused with emotion. It's like getting out of this trap, and now it's like, okay, I'm seeing what I'm seeing this situation for what it really is. I'm accepting what is because in fact it already is. I can't change anything about it. So with what I have, what's the next best step? And whatever action is taken after that is so much better than just a quick, I'm going to ram into the back of this person's car or, you know, something like that.
Yeah. And I think that's what's so valuable of what a lot of the work that me and you have done and that we've talked about is just how valuable it is to have these emotional signals to let me know when I'm resisting something. Stress, resistance to what is.
Mm-hmm.
Frustration, overwhelmed, a resistance to what is. And maybe I'm putting too much energy in and not getting enough, you know, what I need back or something. It's not a good investment of my energy. We should talk about that for a second because I think that's really cool. Because a common question that comes up in therapy that clients ask or I ask is like, how is it possible for me to know if I'm investing too much in my relationship? Well, your spirit is smarter than you are. Your heart or your spirit is smarter than your mind is. So when you start putting energy into a relationship, if that person doesn't receive what you're putting out there, that energy will bounce off their spirit or body or whatever, and it'll send a signal back to your spirit, and then your spirit will produce the feeling of frustration.
Mm-hmm.
So how do I know if I'm investing too much and not getting into my relationship, well, you'll feel frustrated, or you'll feel stressed, start to feel overwhelmed. It's not their fault.
Mm-hmm.
You're not accepting what is. They just want to be on their phone right now, and that's okay. They're a human being that's going to make their own choices.
Mm-hmm.
They want to run away. They want to go on a run right now. They don't want to hang out with you. That's okay. It's like it's just so these emotional signals are so valuable, because we can't be the Zen master Monday through Sunday every day. We're going to miss windows. And these emotional signals are so valuable, man, because it's like, cool, I'm in a state of resistance, and I'll look at that, and then I'll learn from it, and I can gradually grow in light.
They always tell the truth. Every time. That is like what is it called? The litmus test? Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
You can do it in the moment.
The lion's test.
The lion's test.
Yeah, the litmus test.
I just went to like Meet the Parents, the movie with the lie detector. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Let's hook you up to this lie detector.
So funny.
And so, but you can do that in the moment you're communicating with someone, because like you said, it will shoot back, and that, whatever you're feeling, is a messenger. And you're like, okay, this is not landing with this person. Or, because some people ask that question, do I listen to this person or do I give advice? And I think the answer to that is, it depends. I think it depends on the person, depends on the situation, and what is your spirit, what is coming up.
Go ahead and try to give advice and see what happens. Pay attention to how they respond. Pay attention to what comes up. If you feel a little frustrated or stressed, it's like, okay, they don't want advice right now. They just want me to listen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what's cool is there's degrees of these emotions. It's not like I'm only feeling 100% stress or 0% stress or 100% frustration or 0. We can get these little like, okay, yeah, that didn't land. And it's not necessarily frustration at that point. It's just acceptance. I'm accepting it before I begin to feel frustrated.
Right.
So, and we can call this the gift of
Emotional matching.
And gift of emotional matching, gift of emotional discernment. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong about that at all. I don't think it's mean, rude, or dishonest. I think the master of that is the Savior, Jesus Christ. You know, if you're Christian, then you know, but if you're not, then you can just kind of use it as an example. But the Savior was an example of perfect emotional matching in every situation. And there were some that were ready for him, and there were some that weren't. And I always think of like the Savior's last 24 hours of his life, his mortal life. And he's in front of Pilate, and Pilate's asking him all these questions. What is truth? That's one of the cliffhangers of the New Testament. What is truth? And the Savior never responds. It's not because the Savior doesn't care. It's because he knows that Pilate is not ready.
He's not wanting an answer. Or if he got the answer, he wouldn't accept it or believe it. Yeah.
Not even like, maybe we could look at it from a practical, like the Savior doesn't want to waste energy, but even for Pilate, that could condemn him even more because he's not ready to accept that level of truth yet.
Mm-hmm.
So like, for example, Mary and Martha, Lazarus just dies, their brother. This is one of my favorite insights into this emotional matching that we've been talking about. Lazarus dies. He essentially has the same interaction with both of them. They come and they say, Jesus, if you were here, my brother wouldn't have died. And I'm going to get this mixed up, but with one of them, I think it's Mary, he says, I am the resurrection and the life, and reassures her verbally. And then with Mary or Martha, it just says Jesus wept. Or Jesus was just there.
And cried.
And just cried.
With
so
her.
It's like, in that moment, Mary's not going to respond. to, she's like, I already know that. I just need you to be here. I just need you to listen, or I just
need you to, I just want to, yeah.
right.
It was like a cool act of compassion. Yeah. So how was it possible for him to know exactly what it is that they needed? What can we learn from that, perhaps?
It has to come from a place of stillness. It has to come from a place of knowing that person, obviously. But we could call it the sacred pause. It's the pause of just kind of looking within and just saying, God or nature or whoever you believe in, what is needed right now with this person? And not listening with this, but listening with this.
It goes back to the theme of what we've been talking about so far, is if you want superpowers in your relationships, stillness over thoughts while you're with your partner. And what can begin to come from that is my spirit is picking up on the energy of this soul, of this person. So let's talk about energy for a second. What creates energy? Well, thoughts. And I like to view energy as like the space between emotion and thoughts. So like if I'm thinking something negatively right now, that's sending out an energy in the world that people that can affect plants and any living thing, humans. Same with emotion. It's like why when you walk in a room and let's say you walk into a room and a couple just got into a fight and you're like, whoa, the energy in here is dense. Like bad vibes in
You
here.
feel it.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing? It can be felt. It can't be. Now the mind is like, oh, the mind doesn't, it's so dumb. But our spirit picks up on that, and it's like, so this is a gift that I believe all of us can develop if we practice stillness with people. You will develop these energy gifts or these emotional gifts to be able to. You'll be surprised what begins to happen. It's different for everyone, I think, but the ability to like know what someone's feeling, the ability to know when somebody when they just want me to talk or listen. It's like books cannot teach you how to do that. A lot of them have tried. It just goes off. It's what we're talking about is the key.
Let's say I was a person that is listening to this and they say, that's cool, but how could I get started with that in a relationship? If I want to start listening from a deeper place, what would be some of the advice you would give them?
It's a powerful question. I believe the entrance to that door is you yourself having a personal spiritual practice. And what does that mean? We've broken down a lot of options for that, but a personal spiritual practice is a practice of concentration. Or intentional. I'm going on this walk outside and I'm not going to think. I'm going to pay attention to my senses. I'm going to notice the trees and what the smells and the sounds and what I'm hearing. And if all emotional and spiritual gifts come from God or from an inspirational place, it's not going to be given to someone that isn't taking it seriously. And that, like we've talked about, God doesn't just give gifts to people that are going to like leave it on the doorstep and never open it. It's a waste of his energy. But he starts seeing someone be more sincere in their individual spiritual practice, and then you start applying that to relationships. Boom, we've got ourselves like a embryo of some superpowers coming over time, or some happen soon, so
I think it's a beautiful answer. I think.
What's your thoughts on that? I know I could tell you had a.
So I think there's a lot of answers to that. I think it might be different for everyone, but for me, the first thing that has to happen is this moment of recognizing. of in Buddhism, in this book that we were talking about, is to stop, literally, like to stop motion, to stop the emotional motion, or in this case, a physical motion, and become still, and to let go of that, to let go of any agenda, to let go of my own perceived judgments of the situation. This person acts this way because if they did this, those things that we get so caught up in, to let go from that and say, let me experience this from God's perspective and just from what is right now. So that letting go of just like, okay, can I put my judgments aside? Can I put my preconceived notions aside and enter into this situation, this conflict with like a beginner's mind of curiosity.
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
going on? Which can be really hard because we're just like so stuck in that. But
That's beautiful, man. I want to ask you a question. As you have been committed to this practice of listening to your emotions and listening to your spirit, those are kind of one and the same. How has that helped you in your marriage?
an emotion that has had a grasp on me for my entire life, we could say, is the emotion of offended. Most of what people do to us, we perceive as hurt, but really it's just us being offended. And I remember when I first got married, I don't know if Taylor will listen to this, but I remember there were moments.
She probably won't.
I know.
Just
Like,
kidding.
we need to bury this. There were moments where she would say stuff, and I remember these first kind of stages of our marriage. She would say things or she would do things, and I was so quick to just be like, "Why did you do that?" Or, "How dare you say that?" Or just immediately go into this mode of being so negative. But listening to these emotions and really just kind of being in touch with that has been so liberating, because I can see her behind the situation. I can see what she's saying. I can hear what's not being said, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's kind of that relationship gift that we're talking about.
We come home from work, maybe it was a stressful day, and we're talking or whatever, and why didn't you do this? Why didn't you? I asked you to clean this thing up or whatever, And my immediate first stage of marriage was like, how dare you? Like, I'm tired. Like I'm a teacher and I taught 5 classes, and I'm tired too. But to stop and just kind of go, well, okay, let's let go of this for a second. And not make any assumptions or take anything personally, and just kind of go, she is having her own emotional thing, and I'm making it about me. So seeing something like that, seeing that or having that insight has to come from a deeper place, in my belief.
Totally. Here's what's beautiful about your saying. When we come to the question is what is one of the biggest benefits that I can expect in my relationships if I take on this burden of listening to my emotions and becoming whole? What's the greatest benefit that's going to come from that? Well, you emotionally to some degree become cleared out. So all that remains is your spirit and your mind. We talked about that. But what's cool is if then you start becoming more in spirit or more present or still, what is the nature of all of our spirits? It is the nature of our spirits. It's a mirror. If my wife does something and I feel offended, this has totally changed our marriage. What I'm about to say, which is, and me and my wife have both done this, where, okay, I feel offended. She just said something that was rude. And I know that is offended is my spirit telling me that I am the one that's lacking in understanding. So I take the time and reflect on it and realize that, you know, whatever it is, I realize that, you know, she was upset about something else and, you know, it's been a stressful day for her, whatever. It's okay. Then if I can quickly do that little clearing out, then my spirit becomes a mirror for my wife. Now she is seeing herself and her own reactions as a mirror. And guess what? I don't have to say anything. I don't have to be like, well, you know, and sometimes I'll still do that. But when my wife has done this for me, dude, it becomes so obvious, like, oh, this is a me thing. Like I need to chill, or I'm getting a little impatient. When she's just like still and just like calm, it's like, that's the beauty, is like, be a good example to other people, and when necessary, use words. But I just think that's a beautiful principle of our spirit is a mirror if we are free of negativity,
Right.
and deception.
Someone could be listening and be like, okay, why would I want to practice that, or why would that be important in a relationship or a marriage? My thought, I would love to get your thoughts on this, but what we say and what we do has a direct impact on someone. The Savior, going back to the Savior knew that what he did and what he said would impact not only those that were there, but on us that would read that 2,000 years later. He knew, when I give this sermon, these words will lift people. And so if we're not conscious of all of this, we can say things that can bring hurt. We can act from a place that is not our true self, and we can cause lasting damage. Words matter, and they can stay with a person for years. There are people that have said things to me, positive and negative, that probably don't even remember me or have not thought about our experience or our communication together, but I still remember what they say. Anyways, any thoughts on that? Like,
I just think that's really powerful, man. I think the prophecy of our time is that people's hearts will begin to wax cold. And when people's hearts begin to wax cold, they don't care about the words that they speak. They just say things, and they don't care if it hurts someone else. And this is the world that we live in, and it's gotten crazier in 2025. Well, the social media, you know, Twitter or X or whatever, and all these platforms, it's like people can say things that whatever they want, and there seem to be no consequences. But there are. Even if you don't see what's happening to the other person, it's like a karmic thing. It's like the whole energy thing. If I'm putting out this negative energy and it's hitting somebody, a comment that I made on Twitter, and it's hitting somebody 2,000 miles away, and it ruins their night. I'm not seeing that. But guess what? I actually have caused this person pain. And the emotional karmic truth with pain is whatever pain I cause someone else, it registers in my own body. Now, it's not the same pain. I might have hurt someone else 2,000 miles away because of what I posted, but they are feeling hurt, but then that might register for me as like guilt or something. But it's an equal measure, and people don't see this, but it's very real. So this is part of why men's hearts are waxing cold. It's like this collective spreading of pain, and they wake up the next morning, or they start having a physical problem, and they don't, obviously they don't know that it's connected to this post or whatever, or collection of moments like this, so like you said, like what we say and what we do, it really matters. just because we don't see how it's affecting us, it doesn't mean it's not.
All of those actions those negative actions that we take towards others, we can't escape the negativity that we send out. That, like you said, the mirror, that is stored as guilt, or I guess maybe it would be guilt, probably for the most part. But that's the confusing thing that people always ask. It's like, why do I have to forgive this person? Like even if they're not going to accept my forgiveness, why is that a conditional? Why do I have to forgive them? It's because the hurt or the guilt that you feel also needs to be healed. So it's not that your forgiveness is forgiving the other person. It's that you need that as well to let go of that burden that you've been carrying.
Yeah, another good word for another good way to describe forgiveness, I think, is just like letting go. And this might be a good time to actually let people know like who you are. I'm so bad at introductions because I don't do the worldly introductions of but Braedon is a religion teacher. He's a teacher of religion. And so we're lucky to have him on today.
That made me sound like so scholarly.
You are a scholar, sir.
You can say anything and it makes me sound good. I'm a fellow appreciator of yerba mate.
He's yeah. You brought a yerba mate expert on the podcast.
I'm a yerba mate scholar.
That's cool. That was cool though, man. Any other thoughts on that topic?
No.
Okay.
No. Yeah.
I want to jump to this. Kind of on the topic of a spiritual practice. And, something that is becoming lost, I think, is like sincere gratitude for other people, but also an expression of gratitude to God or the universe. The practice of gratitude, it goes with the whole hearts waxing cold prophecy. Mm-hmm. There's this really powerful practice in old Jewish culture or religion, which is called dayenu.
The Hebrew word, yeah.
Dayenu.
Uh-huh.
Yep. That's how you say it. So dayenu means, the literal translation is it would have been enough. And as I've been practicing this, I want to tell you what the practice is, but it has brought in a whole new depth to gratitude that I've never experienced. And by the way, why is gratitude so important? There's no practice that is connected to happiness more than gratitude. Period. It's a lot. Probably the most research on happiness is connected to gratitude more than anything else.
Amen.
So it's important. And just a side note on that, I think in the healing journey, we so often, maybe too much to some degree, focus on constantly maybe the negative emotions or the letting go, but maybe don't focus enough on dayenu or gratitude as a practice. So the practice is basically this. I'll share an example that I wrote down. This has been mine lately. If you would have, so to me, this is God that I'm directing this at, but to me, this is what this practice would kind of look like, has kind of looked like in the past. If you would have only spoken to me once this week, it would have been enough. If you would only have helped me realize that I need to connect with my wife only once this week, it would have been enough. If you would have only helped me recognize that I need to play with my daughter more once this past month, it would have been enough. If you would have only prompted me to express my love and gratitude to one person this week, that would have been enough. God, your goodness is great and your mercy is abundant. It's when I say it, I get a little emotional because it's just like, holy cow, how much and have I taken for granted and that I continually do every single day? Just walking in this office, the earth, Mother Earth herself is supporting my every step without seeking any recognition. And it's like, it's just such I just think it's such a beautiful practice of like, it would have been enough.
Mm-hmm.
If it was just this amount it's just a beautiful shift than how most people are thinking.
This means so much to me. I'm so glad you brought this up because I've been thinking about this. Meister Eckhart, one of the great Christian mystics, he said, if you said one prayer of thank you, it would have been enough. He says it in that kind of that. I've been thinking about this a lot because I feel like this is a whole new level of a relationship with God or whoever it is you believe in. If you were to take a second and think about someone in your life that you really love and appreciate, you love being with them, you love being around them, you love talking with them, you love them unconditionally of what they are doing.
Regardless of what they're doing.
Right. And sometimes, maybe this is with God, we do this. We see these moments in our life where we might call it the dark night of the soul, where we feel like heaven is closed or God is not rewarding us with the things that we should be getting. And we start to turn resentful towards God.
Mm-hmm.
And Father Thomas Keating, one of these amazing Christian mystic, modern day mystic, he said that God doesn't want to be loved on conditions of what he does. When he is gone, you can think of it as a loved one. This is the example used. We love someone even when they're gone. You think of someone that goes on a trip. We don't stop loving them. And so it's almost like we can stop and not make it conditional, and we can say, God, like, what you've done for me is like so much already at this point. And I'm not going to make my love conditional for what you haven't done yet. And so I feel guilty sometimes when I go into that mode of just like, I start praying to God and I say, I need this, I need this, I need this. But there's those moments of gratitude where you say like, thank you. And that is enough. It's this beautiful thing.
That's
and I
cool.
feel like God loves that. In my personal opinion, I feel like he appreciates that because he is a person. He's not just some cosmic thing we pray to,
Right. It just, what's come up a couple times as you've been sharing that is just the importance of turning your life over 100% to this source of goodness, or that. The other option is you actually can turn your life over to the source of evil, or the Satan figure. Both are very real, and you can, if you don't believe they are real, you can take a week and observe human behavior and the decisions that people make, and how they're influenced by the mind or by the spirit, and that kind of like what we've been talking about. Mm-hmm. But there's this friend that I've been friends with for a while, and he told me this story of someone he grew up with in high school who sucked at skateboarding when he was 13 years old, and they used to skate together. He's like, dude, you suck. He's like, I know. And then he didn't see him for like 6 years. So 6 years later, he goes to the skate park, meets up with his, he sees this old friend that he hasn't seen, and his friend's now 19. And this kid from age 13 to 19 is shredding the park. Like, he's the best. He's insane. Like, he's insanely good. Like, everyone's like, there's a crowd around watching him do his like tricks and stuff. And my friend goes up to him and says, hey, like, how did you get so good? Because I skated probably about as much as you have, and like, I'm not even close. And he's like, do you really want to know? He's like, I really want to know. And he just held his arm out. And he had, and you can believe whatever you want with this, but he had Satan tattooed on his bicep and his arm. And he said, honestly, I made a pact with Satan. And I said, if you make me good at skateboarding, and if you make me famous, and if you make me rich, I will do whatever you want me to do. And my friend, who I really trust, he's not like, he speaks the truth. He's like, I felt this like dark energy, just like almost like witness to me the truth of, and this kid, I can't remember his name, this pro skater, I think it's like Lizard King or something. I can't remember his skating, but he was known for doing the gnarliest tricks, like jumping off like 3-story buildings and I don't know, just these and he was like, anyways, just as real as that is, which is maybe a little less common, but still happens, is just obviously the opposite of that, of whatever you believe is the source of good in your life. The importance of making a decision, like and to vocalize it, like, I am at your service. I am your servant. I am going to do whatever you want me to do. I want to be a force for good. Just start doing that with whatever you feel comfortable directing that at. And the promise is that the ageless guardians start to appear in your life. And you start to feel this guidance and this power more present. So this has been something that has been so transformational for me probably the last year and a half, because up until a year and a half, I don't think I ever did that.
Right.
But I am a servant. And I know, and there's power in knowing that you are and choosing that of good. Now, it doesn't mean we're obviously we still make mistakes and we have our struggles and whatever, but this is the end point of this healing journey, is making that choice and devoting yourself to it for the benefit of, the human race.
To bring that like kind of full circle with everything we've been talking about, that we've talked about this often, that is the blessing, that is the right, that is our birthright when we look within and we feel what needs to be felt, and we find stillness and whatever that needs to be worked on. Maybe it's some past stuff, or maybe it's a situation in your life. When we can show, I don't want to say like we're proving it, but maybe it is a little bit of that, but maybe proving it to ourselves. Once we're free of that, it's like floodgates open. That is the most powerful thing. So if someone's listening and they're like, oh, that sounds so cool, but it's like, I feel like I want to do that, but I feel guilty of just like, I feel like that's common for so many of us to achieve or find our purpose. But when we are continuing to do this practice of finding stillness and working with these emotions or any deeper past pain that we need to look at, that will happen. That will happen.
Yeah. That's a powerful reminder, because the calling first is like God or Christ or the source will say to you, hey, you need to be that person first. You need to be whole to some degree first. And then I want to use you. So, but just this application of finding a silent moment to yourself and really making a sincere, like, commitment, like, this is what I want and this is what I choose. There's power in that. We could call it a covenant, a mutual agreement between us and this higher power, that I'm going to do my part to help them, and then they're going to do their part to help me. And that support is, I think, really necessary, obviously, in the healing journey. And then the end of the journey is the calling, and being used more as that servant,
And
so,
it's all supposed to happen in that order.
For sure.
Because
otherwise you'd be it's a hypocrite.
It'd be hypocritical. But the beautiful thing, like we've talked about with gratitude, okay, these horrible things that have happened to me, or these hard things that have now become gifts, now become part of who I am, and now become part of my purpose.
And that's what I use to fulfill my purpose.
But if we can't see that, and it's not a mental thing, but if we can't experience that, it's going to be really hard. We'll doubt ourselves. We're like, oh, maybe this isn't the path, or maybe I'm not good enough. When you have that moment where you're like, no, this is part of this, and this is making the person who I am, who I need to be for this. Once you see that and experience that, that's the key to unlock that.
I like the visual how about like all of our purpose involves jumping in the water and pulling people out who cannot see things that, you know, maybe we have been lucky to see or seeing things with it. But if you jump in and you don't know how to swim, now you become a victim to be saved. And so you don't, and it's good to jump in if you don't know how to swim, because that's just your own, you have to, you know, go through that, like you said, the healing. Mm-hmm. That aspect of it might not be good in the visual, but anyways, I think you get it, what I'm saying.
Putting the mask on.
Yeah.
Before the other, you know, that's like cliche, but you know,
mm-hmm.
There's wisdom in that. Like, yeah.
If you have benefited from this podcast in any way, it would mean the world to us to have you subscribe, to allow us to keep it going and bring on inspirational human beings.